Welcome to the stream, everyone. I hope you're having a great evening. I will just start by telling you what I did today. Besides the obvious spamming that probably most of you saw on Twitter, I also worked on some slight improvements to the UI of Turbine. You can now filter the websites that we analyzed by the date that they were added, and you can also filter them alphabetically by sorting the host names alphabetically. It's a small feature and it's probably not super useful for everyone, but somebody reached out and I just wanted to act on their feedback, right? And that brings us to the second cool thing that we got done today in Turbine, which is that now when you go to the ratings page, you get some helpful links that show you how you can fix your rating. So, for example, if you are missing a thumbnail in your website, then Turbine now gives you a link with which you can learn about thumbnails and implement thumbnails for your website, right? And the biggest thing I wanted to talk about on stream today is basically the strategy to launch the browser app and make it a success, right? Because let's say we launch a browser app, but it's just a browser like any other browser, right? Then people don't really see the point in using it. And if very few websites are optimized for this new kind of browser, the features won't be really accessible to people that are interested in sustainable browsing, right? So my plan, my strategy that I thought up is basically to start with some niche, right? Because we won't be able to change the entire internet by releasing a new browser. You know, I wish we could, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen, right? But how can we take steps towards making creating an interesting product that at the same time is very sustainable and useful, right? Very efficient, very accessible. So my strategy for that, right, is to start with a niche. And what I was thinking of was what I was thinking of first, right, was to create some kind of news site that is incredibly efficient. And whether you are in New York City with a 1 gigabyte per second connection, with a gigabit connection, or whether you are in the jungle in Indonesia, you can use this news site, right? And when you would open the browser app, the first thing that you would look at is this news site, and it would load really fast and it would be very accessible and it would be the fastest news site in the world, basically. Like that was the promise of that idea, right? I'm still compelled to do that because news sites, any news site, it doesn't matter if it's Russian Insider or Washington Post, right? Any news site has the problem of bloat. And it's not something that I'm generalizing based on feelings, but it's something that I'm generalizing based on empirical data, right? Because I looked at a lot of news sites, and it doesn't matter from which company the site is, whether it's The Verge, um, Wired magazine, Rolling Stones magazine, TechCrunch magazine, um, or Google News. It doesn't matter. All of them have the problem of bloat, and all of them are heavy, right? Every time you visit TechCrunch, you're downloading 6 to 10 megabytes of image data, for example, right? And that is, in terms of performance, that is terrible. Imagine you are a user and you have a low data plan of 1 gigabyte, and every time you browse this website, it eats 10 megabyte of your plan, right? Your plan is going to be done in a couple of days. And this is just because the images are not scaled down to mobile devices, or the images are not compressed. So a news site that is super efficient, that is ultra efficient, setting that as the goal, to not say, hey, do not say this is the best news site, but say, hey, this is the fastest, most efficient, most performant news site you ever used, right? That, I think, is a compelling thing to go after. However, the thing with most news sites and also Google News is that in the background, these news sites use something called RSS feeds. And an RSS feed is basically a document that news websites publish in order to distribute these news stories to social media platforms or news aggregators like Google News, right? So most news websites aren't actually news websites. They don't write content themselves, they just aggregate content. And the problem with that is that while we could create a news site or a news aggregator that is really efficient, we can't really display the content of the news on that site without getting a licensing agreement, which for most newspapers, and I've researched this because I've tried to build a news app before. For most newspapers, the licensing agreement is within 1,000 to 2,000 euros per article, right? This is for big news sites. So if I want to, for example, display the content of the news article from Wall Street Journal, right? Then I need to get a licensing agreement just for this article, which is around, like, it could be between 500 and 2,000 euros, right? And then I might find out nobody wants to read this article. And then I paid all of that licensing for nothing, right? And in general, news and the whole business of news is a race to the bottom. People don't really want to read news anymore. People aren't interested in newspapers anymore, and it's not something interesting, right? So this is why I'm highly critical of this idea, highly skeptical of this idea. And while it seems compelling to build a super ultra efficient news aggregator website, well, that would be cool, right? It's probably, in terms of business, it's probably not the best business to be in. Okay. So that was my first strategic niche we could go into in order to promote our technology and give it a use case, right? And while I was contemplating this idea, right, I was thinking of another idea, another niche. Okay. And I think this is a far better idea, but it is related. So most of you probably don't have a website, right? And most of you probably don't know how to create one. But if you would use a tool to create one, like WordPress, like Framer, then this website would be quite heavy, probably, and not performing really well on low bandwidth connections or old devices, right? And what most of you would probably use it for is for your portfolio or simple blogging, right? Saying on your website, it says, I worked here and there, and I've created this project and that project, and so on and so on, right? And what you would be creating is essentially a microblog. It would be your own blog from you, written by you, or whatever tool you use to write your content. And then you would publish it on your website, right? Your little blog or your little portfolio. And for designers, usually what happens is that designers create very sophisticated portfolio websites with lots of animations and stuff. But for regular people and for engineers and for regular people, they would just use a simple template and create a website. And so my idea is to create a platform for microblogging that allows people to create blog posts and share articles on whatever they're interested in, and to make this an ultra efficient platform that is incredibly accessible in any bandwidth, under any bandwidth constraints, and to give this to people, right? And the long-term business that I see in this is that if all these bloggers or if all these people start publishing on our platform and start reaching all kinds of people through this ultra efficient microblogging solution, then we can raise awareness about the kind of infrastructure that we want to build, and we have a definite proof, but also, and more importantly, we could go into a direction of Patreon where certain articles have to be paid for and certain content has to be paid for. And while I'm not 100% certain about that being the use case that gives us, makes us millions of dollars or gets the attention of everyone that needs to pay attention, or while I'm not certain that we can, promote our browser this way, I think it is a compelling use case to start with. And from there, we can branch out. you know. And if you think about the web as a whole, it is about documents. It is about publishing content and publishing text and distributing text and stuff like that. So I think it is a sensible direction to go into, but obviously the adoption is also hard and stuff. But I think it would be interesting if there would be a microblogging solution that is accessible in areas like Indonesia or in some areas of Africa where maybe the internet is not good enough right now to microblog or to publish content, and to just see what comes from that, you know. And this is kind of like one of the lowest entries to the internet that we can give to people. And I think if people start using this, you know, for publishing content, it might really, you know, be interesting because we are converting users that currently are not users at all. And I think that this could be a very compelling use case because it proves our goals, and it proves it could be a good proof of, you know, scaling this ultra efficient technology to millions of users or a bunch of users, you know. So I want you to think about it and let me know what you think about it. I'll also continue to think about it. But I think if we launch this browser app, right, and then the optimizations that we made they only work on a couple of websites, then it's not as good as it could be if you know, we launch it and many people use it for their browser, for their blogging, and then this optimization works on any site, any blog site that was created using this blog platform. So the idea is basically a blog platform, right? You can create articles, you can create posts of any kind involving any media, and you can distribute it in an ultra efficient way. So basically, the medium, the ultra efficient medium. Maybe we sell it to Medium. Maybe we sell it to Google. You know, maybe we sell it to Twitter. Who knows? But the idea is to build something that is so fast that it could reach the last corner of the earth, right? It's so fast that it's so efficient that it could reach anyone, anywhere. That is the goal of this microblogging platform that might be a viable niche to go into and start applying our technology towards. So that was the second idea, right? Now the third idea is a lot more, I would say, it's a lot more feasible for most people, I would say. And that idea is to basically build an email client that gives you a possibility to read emails in a really efficient way, in an ultra efficient way. Because what you have to understand how emails work, right? Let's say you use Google Mail. So if you want to read Google Mail, you go to the Google website or to the Google Mail app, and the website or the app will start downloading all the emails you have in your inbox. And these emails are documents. These are fully fledged HTML documents. Sometimes they have pictures in them, logos, styles, sometimes even JavaScript, right? And so you have these documents, this list of documents, right? That is in your inbox. Now, if you click on one of these documents, the email app or the email website will start downloading the entire email document, right? So the optimization that I see is to just say, hey, we read your emails and we summarize them and compress images inside of them using AI and compression and other optimizations. And we, make the email a lot smaller. And then when you're downloading this email document, you're only downloading the text inside of the email, like a tiny fraction of the email, right? Not the entire document, but only like a tiny fraction, because now we've summarized the most important information. We've stripped out all of the bloat of the email, and we've given you we have compressed the images. We're only sending the summarized email and the compressed images. And then if you want to, you can download the entire email. But for most people, it doesn't really matter, right? The whole email document, it's just bloat. You don't really care about it. And we basically give you like a tiny, out of this big newsletter email, right? You only get like tiny pieces of information back that save you reading time and data and download time, right? Because you might be on a mobile connection somewhere on the planet where the internet is not that good, and so every time you read your email, it loads a lot, right? And it eats a lot of your data. So this idea, I think, is also kind of compelling, because maybe a lot of users could be helped with this, and it could become a real commercial product that helps people from day one to declutter their emails. However, I think email as a whole is a dying thing, and people hate emails. I hate emails, for that matter, and I generalize about it right now because I hate emails and I hate reading them. Which would be another reason to solve the problem of emails, right? But I think it's just like when people hear about email products, they are immediately they are immediately shutting down, because like they don't want to hear about emails. They don't care about emails, and they definitely don't want to pay for an email solution, right? So what I'm thinking of is basically to still build the browser app, right? But build it very closely to the microblogging solution, and then enable this like super efficient microblogging using our browser and the infrastructure that we've built for this microblog. So let me know what you guys think about this, and whether you think we could this would be interesting. And I still think, if we go at the end of the day, we built this like ultra efficient blogging platform, right? And you can reach anyone on earth with this, even people that have a very bad connection, then we can monetize the access to it via subscriptions or pay per use, and kind of go towards like a Patreon business model. That's what I'm thinking. And I mean, this is just like, this is basically just for the timeline after March, right? Because we're still gonna just build like this browser app and try to make it super efficient and build like some websites that use the technology in a smart way to make it really efficient. But then like this microblogging thing could be for after March. Yeah. Okay, I will just quickly demo you. So let me know about those ideas, what you think. I will quickly demo the Learn More feature on Turbine that I built today. If the screen share works and my laptop doesn't freeze up for whatever reason, God damn it. I think it froze. I'm sorry. Just froze. And now it crashed. Let's try again. Ah, it froze again. Damn it. Is it working? Okay, maybe it's working now. Okay, so you can click on a website rating. And it stops working again. So you can click on a website rating, and then you can see these question marks next to the descriptions of the different sections of the rating. And then you can click on the question mark to get more info about how this rating works and what you can do about fixing it. Right, since there are no questions and I can't do the screen share, I'll see you tomorrow with more updates and more ideas. I'll continue to try to reach out to people on Twitter, even if I get spam filtered or it's not connecting in the way I imagine it to. But I'll continue to try to reach people with our ideas, and I'll continue, you know. I'll see you tomorrow.